Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm back. I never left. I do what I want. Anyway, it's good to see you guys. I'm glad you're here. Uh, man, a lot of stuff been going on. So, if you're following me on my Instagram, which is at Timmy Boosters as well, you'll see I've been doing house stuff, and that's kind of how I've been spending my summer. Sorta. I've had a lot of stuff going on, the whole bait making thing, and building out the front porch and all that. I've been busy and it's been fun. So I'm starting a project and it's gonna be building this camper. That's my plan right now. Once the camper's built, my first shakeout's probably gonna be the Southern Oregon go to bike school plan that I've had for, I've been wanting to do this for a long time, and I still want to do it. And then a little further along, once we do the shakeout and kind of get things mostly situated, I'm going to start actually traveling and putting on some miles. But for now, I'm really excited about what I'm building. Super excited to be doing it by myself. For one, it's not going to cost me 20 grand to do this, but really excited about it, which kind of brings me to what I'm doing in this particular video, which is going to be wiring the car. So from the front of the car, brake controller, all the way to the rear to the plug where it plugs into the trailer. Well, let's get into this. All right, so right now I'm wiring the rear plug for the car. It's from eTrailer.com. Really great place to get parts if you're looking. I'll leave a link in the description so you can go check them out if you want to. They got so much stuff. It's really unbelievable. But anyway, this is a pretty simple setup. Light colors go to light colors. Your trailer brakes don't have anything to do with your trailer lights or your original 4-prong lights for your car. So they just basically plug right in, and then the rest of the wiring is only for the actual trailer brakes. So right here, I'm fishing everything up to the front of the car. It's basically a big duplex set of wiring. And if you look up here in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see a little bit of looks like cardboard actually, and it kind of feels like cardboard too, but it's sound deadener, and it goes all the way up to the front. So that's what I use to take my wiring up to the front. And then you got to figure out how to get through the firewall, or you got to come up in front of the firewall by the battery. So that was a little difficult. This whole experience of fishing things through and doing all that kind of stuff had its moments for sure. Got a little bit difficult and frustrating sometimes, but we got through it. Anyway, so you fish that through. The duplex cable comes out. They give you more of the duplex cable than you need, which is good because you end up needing more than what you think. I know it sounds funny, but there's an extra little step in there that you use this wiring. I ended up using some regular 10 gauge or 12 gauge, sorry, red colored wire, but you have to actually ground the system to the battery. And we'll get to that a little bit later. Anyway, so right now I'm putting a conduit basically over the duplex wiring, and I end up throwing the battery ground wiring through there as well. That way, everything's protected. The main key is not to put the wiring close to anything warm, especially not hot, or anything moving. So just keep that in mind. But once you get that all done, then it comes time to start the actual, well, to me, it's the fun part. This part's not, routing wires is not fun for me because it's just tedious and kind of hard sometimes, to tell the truth. So once you get all your wiring set up, disregard the purple and black wire, right? That's the main ground for the car, for the vehicle. And I just chose to put my circuit breakers on that wall right there because that was already there. Now I'm just cutting the wire, the duplex wire, the sheeting off of it, or the insulation, so I can expose the wire and start making my connections to the different terminals on the circuit breakers. So for my kit, I used the 30 and the 40 amp. The 30 amp was for the actual brake controller itself. The 40 amp is for the main brake system. Sorry, wiring. So the wires that run up from the back are the black and the white wires that you see there, and the black is your power and the white is the ground. So right now I'm just making my connections on the terminals. Not a lot to it, just making the connections. I was careful not to connect anything at first, just because, I wanted to make sure all my connections were there first, and then, not shock myself. The hard part really is making sure the length is correct and getting everything routed and connected, or connectors put on it and all that kind of stuff. That's the I guess most difficult part for me anyway. And then you just connect everything up the way it's supposed to be, and you're off to the races. This part is just like I'm showing off these cool connectors I got, because they're heat shrink. So you crimp it and then you heat shrink it, and they worked really well. I was impressed. So there's an adhesive inside of the shrink as well. So it's basically a waterproof connection. Really cool. Very sturdy. The only thing I found is the heat shrink is pretty stout. So you got to use quite a bit of heat to get it to go. Once it goes, it's quick, but it takes quite a bit to get there at first. But I can leave a link for those as well down below. I guess what I was saying is don't aim your heat gun at your battery or anything else that might melt when you're trying to heat shrink that, because it'll melt everything around it probably. It has to get pretty hot. So part of the connections I had to make was hooking up the ground to the battery. It has to be hooked up to the actual battery itself. You can't hook it up just to a ground on the frame anywhere. Otherwise, I would have just used that main ground over there. But since you had to connect it to the battery, my battery is in a kind of an awkward place I don't really like too much. It's not very convenient because the negative terminal is all the way back up in there where the flashlight is shining. You can see the positive right there in front of you, but you can imagine where the negative terminal is. So kind of painful. Not that hard to get to, but it's just a tight space. You know what I mean? All right, so once you get your connections all made, get everything all tightened up and ready to go, you can go ahead and cover up your terminals. You can use heat shrink to cover it up. You can use a piece of black tape. I chose to cut off the end of a wire nut, and basically just screwed it on there. It's just a quarter 20, so just screws on there, and basically it just covers up your terminal ends, so they don't, even though they're sticking out, nothing will catch sparks or anything off of them. And I guess while we're at it, covering things up, it's about that time to put some conduit around all these other little wires and such, so that they don't inadvertently get too hot or snagged on something or whatnot. One thing I was going to mention too is if you're going to do something like this yourself, or anytime you're going to install something similar, or stereo, whatever it is, if you have to install anything aftermarket, just try and make sure that you route things so that it doesn't get in the way of the mechanic when they're trying to service your vehicle. like they got to service this battery, right? So I ran the wires in a way where I followed the harness that was already there. So if he has to disconnect it, he can just move it all out of the way at the same time. Just something to keep in mind. It'll definitely make life easier for you and them. So at this point, I'm fishing the wire through the firewall. And once I get that done, I'm going to push it out through the panel that I chose to put the brake controller. And I'm pretty pleased with the way everything turned out and the way that things got hooked up. So let me go check that out real quick. So there's a really cool panel right next to my steering wheel. There's a fuse block that's right back in the back. That's supposed to be accessible right there with that. And there's a roll cage that's basically across the entire dash right there. So I just bolted the brake controller straight to that, because this particular brake controller is designed in a way that the accelerometer can tell which direction you're going no matter which orientation this device is mounted in. It's not like a regular or an older style brake controller where it has to be mounted in a specific way in order to accurately tell brake proportions and stuff. Anyway, so that's where I bolted that to, and the actual button itself, which is really awesome with this brake controller. That's the only thing you see. It's just a little button that lights up with an LED. But that's it. You hook up your wiring to the speed control or to the brake controller, and once you get the wiring hooked up there, you do black to blue, because on the brake controller that's really the only thing that's different on this whole kit as far as color wise. It's color matching all the way up until that point, and that's because your trailer brakes all the way in the back, where the brakes actually are on your 7-prong plug on your actual trailer itself, is blue. Blue to black. The white one is still a ground, and then the red one goes to the cold side of your brake light switch, so that way your brake controller knows when, basically that tells your brake controller when to apply the brakes to your trailer. And that's pretty much it. Other than that, check out this little video I made real quick of the panel. There's the controller, you pull out your panel, you have access to everything, and the only thing you really got to worry about is that little button right there. That's it. Done. Hey guys, thanks for watching. I really appreciate you being here. Like I said, it was a lot of fun. I always enjoy doing this kind of stuff. It kind of takes me back to my roots as a mechanic, and it's what I love to do, really. So thanks again for being here. Here's a little prelude to what's coming. We're gonna go ahead and install the brakes and the drum hub and drum assembly, and get everything lubed up, and then we'll start wiring the trailer for brakes. It'll be fun. So yeah, that's what's coming. Anyway, I love you guys. Ride safe, have fun. I hope to see you out there.
YouTube record. How